So have you heard marriage is nothing more than a piece of paper?
Erin and I were teaching at a marriage event one time, and a young man came up to me at the break and he said, "Hey, we love what you're talking about. We do everything that you're saying. We're just not married. Marriage is just a piece of paper. Prove otherwise." Erin and I get the privilege of doing marriage events all over our country, well, really all over the world. We love ministering to couples that way. We love to help them rekindle their love, strengthen their marriage, make sure that they're strongly connected. And Erin, I'm sure you remember this, but really one of the most memorable experiences that I've had at one of our events is a young man came up to me at a break and he said, "Hey, my girlfriend and I, we love everything you're saying. As a matter of fact, we're super encouraged because what you're talking about and these tips for a strong marriage, we do all that, but we're not married. We live together, and I just think that marriage is nothing more than just a piece of paper." So he kind of laid down this challenge. Literally, he says to me, "So, would it be okay if maybe at some of the other breaks, kind of convince me of why we should get married?" So like a mission impossible, I took the challenge, and it was one of the most wild experiences just having him come up at the different
Hmm.
breaks and us just having this great conversation. And that's what Aaron and I really want to do today with you is we want to run through what we believe are three of the biggest lies that are out there around cohabitation, to where our culture wants you to believe that there are really strong reasons why a couple should be living together. But we want to talk about these lies and really replace them with some truth.
And cohabitation is becoming more common, and often couples are asking, do we need the piece of paper to show that we're married? But marriage is so much more. It's actually a covenant. And we really want to talk about, how does cohabitation impact your future marriage? Is it what is best for your future marriage?
But first, don't forget to subscribe and go ahead and hit that bell. You don't want to miss the next video.
So let's talk about this lie that marriage is nothing more than just a piece of paper.
Yeah, I mean that sounds right. The only thing that separates a married couple with a couple cohabitating is just this little piece of paper. Why does that matter?
Mm.
Well, I'll tell you what, the truth is why that little piece of paper matters is because when you really ask someone what they truly want for their partner, their significant other, for their spouse, I mean, when you really say, okay, what do you long for them to experience? Like I did with this young man. So when he came back up, at the break, as we were talking, I said, okay, so here's where I'm going to start. What is it that you really want
Mhm.
for her? What do you want her to experience? And so as we began to talk, basically what he ended up saying was, well, I want her to feel deeply loved. I want her to feel safe. I want her to feel secure in my love and in our relationship. So I kind of was smiling because I knew
Mhm.
I'd painted him into a little bit of a
Mhm.
corner.
Because really, marriage, the covenant of marriage, creates all of that.
Yeah.
It creates safety and security. It's really taking a stand so everyone around you knows that I'm all in. This is what I'm choosing, and I want to be with this person for the rest of my life.
Yeah, because he's really talking about I want to experience the deepest relationship that we can as a couple. And what we've learned over the years is that if you want to go to the very depths in your relationship, you want the strongest intimacy and connection to fully be known, to be seen.
Mhm.
There's risk there,
Mhm.
and that's why this piece of paper actually matters.
Because no one is ever going to be fully known if there's not security, because the door is always a little open
Yeah.
and it's propped open, so either individual can walk away at any point from the relationship. Therefore, how safe is it to be fully known? And to be fully known is one of the deepest longings of the human heart.
Yeah.
So how safe and secure does one feel to reveal everything when they know someone can just walk out and the relationship is over?
And that, as I talked to this young man, I mean, that made sense to him. I mean, he was able to go, okay, that I get it. Like, if I want her heart to really be open to me
Mhm,
fully,
mhm,
to where I can fully see her, we can experience that deep, deep love. I get that she needs to feel safe and secure. And he was like, okay, I can concede that marriage would provide that. But he goes, but married people divorce all the time. So he
Mhm.
was kind of smug going, so really what you're saying doesn't really matter because married people divorce. And that's true that marriage isn't a perfect guarantee that the relationship is going to be everything that you hope and want it to be. The key is that it creates the best environment.
Mhm.
So I still argued with him that marriage in and of itself creates the best possible environment for two people to feel fully safe, fully secure, and be fully open to be seen and to be known. And so don't believe for a second that marriage is simply just a piece of
Mhm.
paper. It really does create the strongest foundation for people feeling safe and secure. They're going to open their hearts to you, and that's when you can truly see them for who they are and accept and love them.
So another lie is we need to test drive the relationship. And it sounds reasonable and practical, but the data, the research actually shows something very different.
Yeah, the hope is that, well, if we move in together, now we'll really be able to see because we have all this time together. I can see the good, the bad, the ugly. I can really evaluate, is this person who I want to spend my life with? Are
Mhm.
there big red flags within the relationship? And so we get it. Like that makes sense. The
Mhm.
problem is that is such a lie
Mhm.
because here's the truth. The moment that you move in together, one, you've told all your friends and
Mhm.
your family, you feel some pressure then that, "Man, we've gotta make this relationship work." So now you start to build this pressure that we've got to stay together.
Mhm. And you start, there's bills that you start paying together. Maybe you get a dog, you start sharing the dog, or, your apartment, your maybe an automobile, whatever. There's lots of things that we start investing in together. And therefore, there's all these
Yeah.
entanglements that then keep us in the relationship. But then, in some ways, we begin sliding into the relationship instead of making the choice that I choose you, I choose to marry you, versus I'm just gonna, it's kind of the next thing. We have all these entanglements. So, of course, we've got to slide into this marriage.
Yeah, because it makes sense that the more entanglements that we share between the two of us, the more that we lose objectivity.
Hmm.
So that's the truth. The lie is, oh, well, now that we're living together, I'll now really be able to notice and be objective here to evaluate you and our relationship. That
Hmm.
never ever happens. The research has shown that
Hmm.
that just doesn't happen. We've got all this pressure, all these entanglements. It makes it harder then to break up. We lose objectivity. I'm not really now truly evaluating the relationship.
Hmm.
And that's why that doesn't work. There's sort of a spin off of this. Test driving is compatibility, especially sexual compatibility. And the truth around that is that ask any longer term married couple that sexual compatibility
Hmm.
isn't a fixed moment in time. Like, oh, we've arrived. We are now
Hmm.
sexually compatible.
Yeah. And instead, what they say is married sex is better. And it's a journey that you're on, a lifetime that you are on of exploration and building a healthy sexual relationship.
Because we're always changing, right?
Hmm.
I mean, that's the point. That's why it's not a fixed moment in time because who you are today, who we are today in this moment,
Hmm.
in this season, will be totally different than a week from now, a month, a
Hmm.
year from now. And ask again, any married couple, it's a constant just learning about each other. And now in the season, what do you want?
Hmm.
What do you need? Well, all that within our sexual relationships. So this idea of compatibility in test driving the relationship to really know, it just you miss all those red flags, and that really
Hmm.
is what becomes a problem. As a matter of fact, we'll go ahead and link to a video that we've done around red flags for you.
Another one of these lies is we're building a foundation. And again, this just doesn't work.
Yeah. Really it's the hope is, well, let's live together so we can build the strongest foundation humanly possible because of the fear that a lot of couples experience because maybe they grew up in a divorced home. Maybe they watched their parents
Mhm.
or a close friend, a loved one, someone who went through that. They've experienced the pain of divorce.
Mhm.
And so again, we hear you. We hear the concern. We hear your heart is, we want to do this right. We want to get the right foundation so we don't go through that. The problem is you're not building the strongest foundation
Mhm.
possible
Mhm.
because you're creating little micro cracks.
And most couples don't realize this. I sit with couples doing premarital counseling, marital counseling. So many of my young couples that are contemplating engagement, maybe cohabitating, don't realize that actually what they're doing is not creating the strongest foundation. God's design for marriage actually is the strongest foundation, and that is the covenant of marriage.
Yeah, when we make little compromises, like we know probably God would not approve of this. This isn't what's best for us. We're making these small little compromises. That's what creates these little micro cracks.
Mhm.
So not huge cracks, but these little tiny micro cracks begin to add up. And what we've noticed
Mhm.
is that later within the relationship, you were training, right, the relationship that it's okay to make these just small little compromises.
Mhm.
And so what happens later on down the road, maybe there's some temptations that, well, I won't say maybe, you're going to face temptations. Maybe it's around an opposite sex friendship. Maybe there's some cash that you got from tips or a bonus that, do we have to really report that to the IRS? Maybe it's around just some choices that you're going to have to make around pornography or addictions, things like
Mhm.
that. What Aaron and I have noticed, right?
Mhm.
When you have these micro cracks, you've taught the relationship it's okay to make some
Mhm.
compromises.
And the research shows that couples who've cohabitated actually have a 75% higher chance
Yeah.
of divorce. And I don't know any couple that is choosing marriage that doesn't want the very best for their future marriage. And so often when I'm talking to these couples, they're like, we are doing what's best for our future marriage, but the research shows differently. So just remember, these little micro cracks are forming. And I know anyone who's choosing marriage wants to start off on a solid foundation.
And so this young man at a different break, as we continued to talk about this, he was really beginning to understand. And I think what really spoke to him was those little invisible micro
Mhm.
cracks that kind of you were talking about, because he had gone through just his parents had divorced, and it had been such a painful experience that just us talking, there was a moment where those tears finally came, and he was like, okay, if I'm being honest, all of this really is my fear, because I
Mhm.
don't want to see that repeated. That was so brutal. I don't want to go through that. I don't want her to go through that, and I don't want our kids to go through that. So in his mind, if we cohabitate, we're doing all these protections to set
Mhm.
us up for the very best. And it just wasn't true. And,
Mhm.
and I think he finally got that. So then for him, it was, I think this is kind of when you joined us,
Mhm.
because Aaron was really talking and answering all of the questions, and I was able then to give my time and attention to him. But then he asked, "So what do we do? We've been
Mhm.
living together, and now I
Mhm.
see that that's not the best. That's certainly
Mhm.
not what God wants. What do I do?" And
Mhm.
that's where you were really helpful
Mhm.
to walk him through
Yeah,
this.
because there's options. Someone can move back home prior to the wedding. You can move into separate bedrooms wherever you're living. It's just looking at and talking about what do we want for our future marriage and researching what is best for that future marriage. The research is strong and it shows having at least 30 days prior to marriage, abstaining from sex, living in separate rooms or separate homes is going to give your marriage, your future marriage, the best chance.
Yeah, we had the opportunity. Now his girlfriend was there, and so just kind of the four of us just spent some time praying. And it was powerful to listen to him as he took her hand and really went for the Lord and sought forgiveness. I mean, it was
Mm,
it was it was powerful to where he owned that and said, God, we're not living really how you want us to, and we own that, and we, you know, take responsibility for that, God, and would you forgive us around that? And it was really cool to hear that. And then they were like, they loved your idea on, they didn't have separate bedrooms. So he's then is like, wow, where could I go? And they just to hear them kind of processing that, it inspired me to then want to then look at all of us and say, you know what? This is where, as a body of believers,
Mhm.
this is where we can step up. Maybe you have a free room in your basement. Maybe there's a spare guest bedroom. Maybe God's going to bring a couple to your mind or to cross paths with you that to where you're able to say, hey, for the next 30 days, why don't you move in here? If that's what you guys are trying to do and to really honor God and their relationship and again create that strong foundation, that's how we can actually help
Mhm.
out. It was a powerful thing to watch them. And I'll never forget just kind of their parting shot, so to speak, was, hey, as we've been talking, we're gonna leave here, we're gonna leave this event, and we're gonna go do some ring shopping. So I
Mhm.
don't know what happened. We don't know if they ended up getting married. We told them invite us to the wedding. Maybe it said more about me that we didn't
Yeah,
get
you
that
spent more time with them.
invite. But that was I'll never forget that.
Mhm.
And it's a powerful reminder around the truths of a cohabitation and how we can start really honoring that relationship.
So maybe as you're listening to this, you're thinking, that's me, that's us. Or maybe you have a dear friend who you care about their future marriage and you're thinking, that's them. There is so much hope. And, where do we go from here? First and foremost, like Greg, you talked about, going before the Lord and going, hey, we didn't follow your design for marriage. And we're just coming before you and seeking forgiveness for that. And of course, the Lord is faithful to forgive.
Yeah.
You're wiped clean from that sin. So go before the Lord first and foremost.
Yeah. Another important step is just to be honest. Have
Mhm.
this conversation around, why did we choose to move in together? Talk
Mhm.
about the fear. Saw people divorce, don't want that. Thinking maybe just financially, this is the easier
Mhm.
way. It's
Mhm.
expensive to where we live, and just out of convenience, maybe we did that. But have that conversation just to gain a little bit more awareness of what was going on for you guys, and you
Mhm.
can again own that awareness and insight.
Mhm. Even what were you wanting when you moved in together? What were you seeking? And just saying it out loud and going, is this the best way to get whatever it was I was wanting? Or are there more righteous ways to do that?
Another important part is just to bring God back into the cornerstone of your
Mhm.
relationship, front and center. Like Adam and Eve, as we make poor choices against what God ultimately wants, it's easy to hide. It's easy to back away
Mhm.
from Him when we're not doing something that we know ultimately He wants for us. And so bring Him back in.
Mhm.
As Aaron said, He's already forgiven this.
Mhm.
As you're owning this and seeking forgiveness, now just continue to build in a stronger relationship
Mhm.
with the Lord as individuals and together as a couple.
So, as you're evaluating, we want to encourage you to really take assessment of the relationship. What are the unhealthy patterns that have been set? What unhealthy choices did we make, either knowingly or unknowingly? Thinking we're building this strong foundation, those little micro cracks. What's going on right now? But then, how do we change that? What decisions can we make together? What goals can we set for the relationship to build a strong foundation and a strong future marriage?
Yeah, Aaron and I have no judgments.
Mhm.
Everything that we're talking about, there's no judgment. We just want the very best for
Mhm.
you. We want you to understand how cohabitation has been set up
Mhm.
as this ideal. In reality, it is one of the biggest ways to damage your future relationship together.
And if you want to hear even more about cohabitation, we actually did an episode on crazy little thing called marriage about cohabitation, and you'll find a link below.
Well, thanks for watching.
Mhm.
Don't forget to subscribe because we have more videos to help you guys and your relationship thrive in Christ.